Hello, my name is Layla Havana Figueroa, and this is my presentation about the Maternalist Movement. So, what is the Maternalist Movement? The Maternalist Movement advocated for changes in laws and public policies to ensure welfare for women, in this case mothers, and children across the U.S. throughout the 19th and 20th century. Maternalists wanted protection for mothers and children everywhere across the U.S., advocating for changes in labor laws for both children and women, as well as financial assistance, usually for families whose fathers have abandoned the family or household. So overall, there were three influences that went into the maternalist movement, both that were causes and effects. As for social influences, there was a lot of discourse of domesticity and the sharing of traditionalist views, and basically the expectations of gender roles and expectations for women to take care of the children and for women to be seen as mother figures. Secondly, economic point of view. It was the beginning of the U.S. social welfare, which was an effect of the maternalist movement and which sparked the idea of child support. Lastly, political point of view and influences. There were a lot of disagreements with feminists overall. Feminists felt as though the maternalist movement kind of forced women into a mother role and only as their profession. Additionally, labor laws changed as well as child laws changed. For example, the maximum hours a woman could work were altered so they could take care of the household. Additionally, they advocated for welfare and advocating for lower income people, though that did not quite work because the maternalist movement received support mainly from people of higher class to keep the movement going. And to quote, throughout this period, all women were denied the right to vote in all federal and most state elections, but a big cause and a big influence of this event was that women were able to make these law and public changes without having the right to vote, which was an incredible achievement during this time. The role of maternalists was to prioritize domesticity and the importance of womanhood while also advocating for children and women's rights, especially those who needed financial support from the government whose families were abandoned by the father. And during this time, it was usually the father who was the breadwinner for the family, who would provide the income and source of money. And mostly maternalists were middle to higher class white women and sometimes men who would advocate to keep those traditional views in place and to maintain a household where the man is out to work while the woman stays in the household. Those who opposed the maternalist movement or felt as though it was harmful to America were usually feminists who felt as though the maternalist movement advocated for all women to be mothers and that expectation to meet gender roles and expectations in the household, as well as traditionalist roles could be enforced to women being in the household while a man is out still being the breadwinner, and the main goal for feminists were equality all around. As for the legacy of the maternalist movement, it brought different views to light. It raised awareness to families and children who struggled with the lack of financial support and brought that structure of government financial aid, as well as law and policy changes. During the maternalist movement, as previously stated, women did not have the right to vote before, but were able to pressure and advocate for law and policy changes, such as child labor laws and working hours, which there were a minimum of working hours imposed onto women because of the movement. Lastly, welfare in the U.S., financial and pension support for families that are left without a father were brought to light and were made changes in the government. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and my resources are below.